Now, back to a kinder, gentler Curtis Wright on the beat.
We're back live here on the beat. Listen up, folks. This is an interview I've been waiting to do, and I wanted to make sure that I was able to do this interview before he got away. He has been a tremendous asset for this community and for many of our public institutions, our civic institutions. He has been the dean at the Cameron School of Business for 14 years. He serves in so many different roles, our community and our public institutions. And he's a great asset, again, as I said, to our entire area. And we'll miss him. I'm sure he'll be back and forth, and I know that he'll continue to stay involved with the community. And I haven't had a great opportunity to get to know him, very little, less than I want to. But I do know that his work at the Cameron School of Business at UNCW has transcended across America, because I know that when I talk to people in business and I talk about the Cameron School of Business, they know the name, and they are impressed by those who come through that particular institution. And I'm talking about the dean of the Cameron School of Business, Larry Clark, and he's here with us today. Good morning.
Good morning, Curtis. Thank you for having me here with you.
And as I said to folks, I wanted to get you before you got away, because you're on your way to an exciting adventure, and you will be the chancellor at a university in Louisiana.
I will be. I'm going back to where I was business school dean from 94 to 85, 1985, 94, let me get it in the right order, at LSU Shreveport in Shreveport, Louisiana.
You know, and what I wanted to do today is I wanted to talk a little bit about your tenure at the Cameron School of Business. There have been, it's 14 years. In total, how long have you been at the school? Has it been?
14.
14. And, you know, we have seen tremendous changes, expansion, and it has become such a valuable part of our community. A lot of great things. I mean, I think about the mentoring program that goes on with retired executives. And you've been right there working with others to build the reputation and make this well, something, I don't know the word to use. I mean, that there's real true value both in the undergraduate and graduate programs of these pieces of paper these kids get. There's real value.
We hope it is, that they have both the education and the critical things they need to know for effective writing, communications, critical thinking, the things that you want them to have, but also that they understand the value proposition of the job and the career. And sometimes that involves further education with a graduate degree, but for most of them who are undergraduates, it doesn't. It involves purely going out, getting a degree, getting a meaningful job, and getting started on a career. And yes, as you were talking with George in the last segment, paying back those college loans.
You know, a real life thing. I mean, it seems to me that there's been a real effort over the years to instill this, the real world, real life, you know, common sense. I mean, things you need to know. Not just fill out the papers, pay your tuition, and see you later kind of idea.
Absolutely. You know, I was very fortunate when I got here 14 years ago. There were already executives and residents there, and they helped us to form the Cameron Executive Network with now over 200 mentors. And the reason they could was those executives were bilingual. I mean, they could speak real world and academic both, because they figured out the academics just enough to survive, and so they could form it. We couldn't have formed that just with academics alone. We had to have people who had the real world experience so that they could help to attract other execs in, because other execs wouldn't have put up with it. That they had to have that, and we had that, and that was a major factor in the success of then building the executive. But the Business Week, you were part of Business Week, thanks, this past month.
It was an honor to be there.
And you saw we had over 150 business people coming in and speaking. That's been going on for 32, 33 years, and the business school is only 34, 35 years old. So that started with Norm Kaler as the dean back then. And so there are a lot of things there that were in place before I got there. My job was not to screw it up when I got here and to try to take it further.
You know, and you speak about, you know, the real world and the academic world.
They go together.
You know, I guess I could look at, you know, I was in music, and I went to college actually before I went to college, because I was fortunate enough that my university offered summer programs for certain students. So I actually spent 3 years at my university before I got there. But, you know, it's like, okay, so that's music, or, you know, philosophy or psychology or that. But when it comes to business, it's an essential to me that from the first almost day that they end up on that doorstep, that they need to be connected with the real world. What's going on? And as you know, in 14 years, look what has changed in the global economy and the job market.
Everything. And you know, we're being very successful in placing students up in New York, on Wall Street. One of the students I had in class, she's with Bloomberg in London. How exciting is that? And so that's another thing that we've done really well. We had global programs were beginning in place when I got here in 2000, but we've taken it to a whole nother level. So our international MBA with 5 universities in Europe. We have over 60 students coming in from our partner schools for undergrad, and we need that because, as you know, UNCW is still UNC white for the most part. It doesn't have the level of diversity it could and should have. And so having these global students come in, give different ideas to our students in the classroom, enriches the classroom so they start to understand that broader focus of what's involved today.
You talked about the Cameron Executive Network, which has been, you know, a phenomenal program.
A great thing.
Talk to me a little bit about the outreach to regional or even statewide businesses, and then national and international. Is that pretty aggressive?
It is very
aggressive. You talked about the students coming
right.
in, but how about the outreach and pulling in businesses?
We're going to have German business people coming in the next month where we have exchanges, and we're building those where they come in and we help them with some training that we do here in the United States. We have a number of practical things, our evening MBA program, our professional MBA program, where we have a learning alliance. We're working with the actual companies, small companies here. And we've had actually some aren't so small. We've been in GE, we've been in Corning, we've been at the hospital doing some different problems where the students are working with them. But even at the undergraduate level, at the marketing, when Whole Foods came to town, we had a project with them. When Trader Joe's came, we had a project. The Whole Foods it was the first time they had plasmas by the seafood, and they wanted to see if they're going to use that idea in the rest of their stores. And our students helped them understand people didn't give a darn looking about fish flying in the water and then buying fish there in front of them. But that was something with Whole Foods. Tervis Tumbler in marketing we were doing. And right now, the group of students are working with the project to market and brand this region. As you know, it's never going to get resolved in my estimation. People are still never going to agree. But they're working on that one more time. And we have a group of students working with Tom Porter with that. And so, and our Swain Center has taken over the professional continuing education responsibilities for the whole campus.
Yeah, I want to talk to you about that because, you know, I mean, I talked about how I think it's imperative for business and connection to the real world. But isn't every graduate, and I think this was the debate or discussion that was taking place, and the chancellor was involved, but every kid who goes to school has to have a business side, a business sense to whatever they're doing.
We think every student should have, in essence, a business plan for themselves.
Right, a business plan, yeah.
For themselves.
And how they're going to connect with this degree and what this training is to the real world.
Yes. And in situations, if they're going to be an accountant and they want to be in public accounting, they better plan on that 5th year of education. And so talking about how does education continue to fit and when is it time to take your education and cash in and get it out there and do something.
Is there on an ongoing basis, and I don't know the answer to this, and maybe this is what's trying to be instilled or implemented. You know, it would seem to me that every year students should be sitting down with someone and talking about their so-called chosen profession, the one that they've decided on.
Yes.
And taking a look at, though, what's going on. Does a university or do you bring in professional recruiters? People who are dealing with this changing, crazy job market and needs.
Yes, we do. You know, one of the things that happens in academia is often the student goes to the professor, and the professor doesn't have enough of an understanding of what is occurring outside or is changing if they ever were there. And many have never even been there to understand that. And so the mentors help us. But to help the mentors to understand what's happening, we will bring in people from different companies and organizations that are out there in HR and talking about what's happening, what are they seeing happening, what do we need to do.
And also then, I'm assuming, then they also start to tell these students how they need to prepare themselves to present themselves.
And we've done that with 2 lab courses that we've just begun in the last year and a half. So we're doing that the sophomore and junior year while they're still forming what major they're going to take in the business school and why.
We'll be right back. We're talking with Larry Clark. He has been for the last 14 years the dean at the Cameron School of Business, still is, and he's on his way to Louisiana. He's going to become a chancellor there and take over at LSU. Shreveport, right?
Shreveport, yes.
And again, his connections here will continue in southeastern North Carolina. Lots more to talk about. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Curtis Wright on the beat.
Can you think of anything more American?
This is the new 106.7 My Talker Radio.
So much to talk about in so little time. I appreciate, Larry, you taking this time. Dean Larry Clark is with us from the Cameron School of Business at UNCW. You know, in talking to you and knowing the little I do and the interaction I've had, I kind of feel like you're anti-bureaucracy, you know. But I think that comes from the business side. I mean, you were just sharing some things off mic with me. You know, when I went into business and I was a young person, I could have never stepped. Look, I went to California. And I went into business with a music degree. Well, that's like, you know, having less than a half a tank of gas and you're trying to drive across the country. So not only someone giving me the opportunity, and it was somebody in those companies trained me and invested time in me, and then there was the mentors that I had early on in my career.
So important.
I mean, 5 years later, I owned my own business. Arriving in California, and I understand the economic situation was different, but it's always been both my mentors. Well, first I should say, you know, people who took the time to invest in me, my mentors, and then it was also my colleagues, and many of those were my competitors.
Sure.
But still, that environment of being able to come together as professionals and to learn something.
Networking.
Yeah,
mentoring and networking. Mentoring and networking.
You know, and I think that from what I've seen, this is something that you've really tried to instill inside what is a typical bureaucracy inside of a university, and this works.
It does work.
I mean, this is what the strength of it.
It absolutely does work. And, you know, I could tell you in terms of team is the other thing that we all think about team. If you come into the Cameron School of the Double Glass Doors, there's a student there. In 2002, in a budget cut, I lost that staff position, which is a traditional staff person, and I used students. You know what happened? Students welcomed other students more effectively than an adult, if you will, staff person, because they could come in and they're more vulnerable with problems they had. They would come in and say, here's my problem. So I have the best damn trained students you'd ever at the front desk of the double glass doors, and I tell them exactly where I am every day. When I go out through that door, I said, I'll buy you lunch if I don't tell you where I'm going. Those students are empowered. They know exactly where I am. They can see my calendar, electronic calendar. It says exactly where I am on it. And, you know, it's a message to the students. My student advisory console, when I meet with them twice a month, the first 10 minutes or so, student run, students set the agenda. They put down what's not right about the business school. What are we screwing up? What could we do better?
Well, they're the customers.
And then I come into the room, and there it's up on the board. And then we work on what has happened in those 2 weeks. And guess when my staff meeting is? Immediately after that. Because whatever we don't solve at that breakfast meeting is the first priority that I have with my administrative team. We need to solve those problems for the students. And I tell the students. And so I would tell Zoe, here's how we think we solved it. And she would tell the students, Dean Larry thinks next time around, 2 weeks later, Dean Larry thinks he solved this one with his team. Here's what they think they've done. Do we agree? And if they don't agree, they put it back up there. And when I walk into the room, guess what? It's back. And they say, don't think so.
You know, but I don't see that same approach across the bureaucuse. And I think that's a real problem that you're seeing, that type of approach. And it should be I hate to use the word, but well, I don't hate to use the word. I think college, from the moment these young people arrive, these young adults arrive, should be an aggressive, interactive in not only between their professors and them, but between they and the real world.
Absolutely.
That three-way legged stool,
Absolutely.
if you will.
Absolutely. I mean, we even went so far as to, we have 2 murals and a sculpture that have been done by art students. And our business students with the Student Advisory Council have been the client. And the art students have come in and made proposals, and like they would have to do in the real world. And then we had the students vote on it during Business Week a couple of years ago on one of the things that was done, and students voted, and that's what was decided. And there was a point. Well, wait a minute. When's the administration's side of my administrative team, or when did the faculty side decide? The students decided. The students worked on it. The students created it. And we've got some great artwork that's around there, done by art students who would never be in a business school otherwise.
What's the purpose? What's the value of what you're doing, you're offering? I mean, you're going through that real cycle that we go through in the private sector every day.
Well, see, I tell people that it's not true that we're just simply about jobs. We're big about jobs, don't get me wrong, big about career. But I like the fact that that mural for 40 feet is about business and literature, and it's about the Great Gatsby. It's Death of a Salesman's in there, Atlas Shrugged, Atlas Shrugged is in there. There's themes there of capitalism, of course, but it's 40 feet and it's art. And we have another area with art. We have a sculpture that the Wall Street Bull is still in captivity because the campus hasn't decided where we're going to be able to locate that one. But it's a sculpture done by art students. And I think it's great for students to see that they need to be giving back. Make some money. Send an alumni contribution back, by the way, when you do. But make some money. But understand that arts and business go together. Business and literature go together. So I'm all about the student, being about literature and being things that you would like to see. But have a job plan, a business plan for yourself. What are you going to do? How are you going to do it? And understand what that pathway looks like.
It's no secret that I have been extremely critical and concerned, whether it is in the middle and high schools or whether it is in colleges and universities. Our public, what they do in the private, that's their business. But in the public institutions, this undermining of the formula of America, that's the way I put it, capitalism, the free market, that this formula has brought more to more people at all levels of society, more positive of things to more people at all levels of society than in the history of mankind. But it is under attack on our campuses and colleges.
True.
How do you fix that? Just by creating the environment you create and do the best you can? I mean,
again, for us, it's coming back to the value proposition for the student who's paying the tuition. Why are they paying the tuition? Are we delivering? Are we helping them to be prepared for what they need to be and what they could be? One of the other roles I have is being on the Board of Trustee member of Cape Fear Community College. And the one thing I'm happy to see in this region is there really is much more effective dialogue occurring today between K-12 and the community college and UNCW. And one of the areas that I think that we haven't done as much, and it gets me out of the traditional academic into the vocational side. I think for too long the high schools around the country ran away from vocational. It was all about getting the college degree, and many kids, as we know, are never going to be appropriate for the traditional college track. And what are we doing in vocational? I'm really pleased to see in this region what's occurring with K-12 and the community college starting to have more discussions about interaction on the vocational side. And I think that seeing what's happening with the university and with the community college right now has really gotten more effective. And this idea of students not losing so many credits when they transfer, it's been a sad commentary of how many students would lose credits over time. That's being addressed. And all that's got to be addressed. It's got to be seen.
One of the greatest things I saw in California for the years I was there was this seamless relationship between high schools, what they called community college, junior colleges, and
absolutely, and it's got to go together. It's got to.
And it was just like unbelievable how kids just moved through.
And here they can be three different things.
Right.
And they can't be. The taxpayers won't put up with it.
I'm sorry our time was short, but I appreciate you coming in for the time that we had. And thank you for all the years in service here.
Thank you.
And I know we'll continue to talk in the future. Larry Clark, Dean of the Cameron School of Business, we wish you all the best at LSU, Shreveport.
Yes.
And I know you're going to be just as great an asset coming back to them as you have been here. Folks, that's it for us today. We'll be back tomorrow here on The Beat on the new 106.7 FM My Talker Radio. Of course, all through the day and tomorrow, there'll be lots more to talk about. You be safe.